Chris Eubank Sr. reveals his honest Eubank Jr. vs. Conor Benn score. I don't agree with the judges. The Chris Eubank Jr. vs. Conor Benn fight garnered a lot of debate over how it was scored. Both men gave it their all at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London on April 26, but in the end it was Eubank Jr. that got his hand raised after a back-and-forth 12-round battle. All three judges scored the fight 116-112 to Eubank Jr. to hand him the unanimous decision victory. But some boxing figures have weighed in to claim they felt the scorecards should have been closer. One man that surprised the world by attending the fight was Eubank Jr.'s father Chris Sr., who reconciled with his son in the hours leading up to the bout to stand alongside him against Conor and his legendary rival from the 1990s, Nigel Benn. Eubank Sr. has now revealed how he felt the fight should have been scored, telling his Call Chris Eubank YouTube channel that he feels it was closer than 116-112 and he'd have even had no complaints with a draw. It was closer in my view. I always go with the judges, you don't complain, you just go with it like a gentleman. It looked so much closer than the score that the judges gave. If that was a draw I had nothing to complain about. That's how close it was in my view. I've seen clips but I haven't watched the fight from start to finish. I'm going to leave that for maybe 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah, years. I don't want to watch it. It's fights like that that raise the bar where people have to fight with their hearts. Not about skill, not about talent, but about grit and perseverance. Attention has now turned to whether a rematch between the two men will take place later this year, with Eubank Jr. admitting that demand for it is an all-time high. Chris Eubank Jr. didn't hesitate when asked if he will rematch Billy Joe Saunders. Chris Eubank Jr. is considering his options after defeating bitter rival Conor Benn last month. The 35-year-old from Brighton locked horns with Benn at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London on April 26, over 2.5 years after they had originally been scheduled to face each other in 2022. Eubank Jr. was declared the winner via unanimous decision after an exhilarating 12-round middleweight contest which was all action from the first bell until the last. He was taken to hospital shortly after the bout for precautionary checks, but was discharged a few days later with no lasting damage. As he now gears up for his next challenge, one option that has emerged for Eubank Jr. is a potential rematch against Billy Joe Saunders, who became the first man to defeat the former WBA interim middleweight champion back in 2014. Speaking on the Diary of a CEO, Eubank Jr. was asked to share his thoughts on Saunders, and reveals who he dislikes more out of Billy Joe and Benn. There's very few people in the sport, in the planet really, that I genuinely dislike. He is one of those people. Billy Joe is a drug cheat too, so, Billy Joe, because not only is he a drug cheat, he is actually a real scummy human being, and I don't talk about anyone like this, so if I'm saying it about him there's a reason. He is a bad person, a terrible advocate for the sport, just a real low-life human being. And for that reason I would love to get my hands on him because he does have a win over me that I don't believe he deserves. A rematch between Eubank Jr. and Benn is reportedly being targeted for September, although it is unclear whether the domestic rivals will actually do battle once again in what could be another brutal encounter.